friends, it's Kim at Foggy Bonnet. I want to talk about envelope liners today, and I want to show you how to make a template so that you can make your own liners, and this will fit the Stampin' Up! Envelopes. These are sized to fit A2 cards. Those are cards that measure 5.5 by 4.25, and they're rounded on the flap. These are the Stampin' Up! Envelopes. Now, Stampin' Up! Does sell an ornamental envelope bundle, which has die cuts to cut your liners in several different sizes. But some of you may not have this bundle, or you may not have a die cutting machine, and so I wanted to show you a way that you can make liners even without those items. So to begin, you're going to want to make a template, and my template measures 5 1/8 inches wide by 4 inches high. It's 5 1/8 inches wide by 4 inches high, and it's scored at 1 1/4 inch from one long edge. What I do with this after I've cut the rectangle is I lay it on an envelope and I line up that score line with the fold of the flap. I don't know how well that shows up, but I'm lining it up with the fold of the flap. And I'm centering it on the envelope. And I'm just going to take a couple of sticky notes, or just one really should do it. And I'm going to hold that in place with a sticky note, and then I'm going to flip it over, and I'm going to trace the curve of the envelope with a pencil. Now on the ends, the curve kind of drops off down to the sides. That's okay. That's really not going to come into play much, so don't worry too much about that. Just follow it as you trace, but don't worry if you mess up a little bit there, especially when you're cutting. And you'll see in a minute why. So once I have that traced, take my sticky note off, then I'm going to take my scissors and cut along that traced line. And you can see I've written notes on this template for how to use it. Okay, so now I have my template. It's been cut out to match the top of the envelope. So I'm going to make a liner for this card, and I'm going to use this paper. And what I want is a 3 5/8 inch by 5 1/8 inch rectangle. So I'm going to get my trimmer out. I want a 3 5/8 by 5 1/8. And this is the Snowflake Splendor paper that I'm using. I think it's very pretty. Oops, I forgot to do my scoring. Okay, so once I have this cut, I want to score this at 1 3/4 inches from a long edge. So 1 3/4 inches from a long edge. And we're scoring, not cutting. So what I have here is my 3 5/8 inch rectangle by 5 1/8, and it's scored at 1 3/4 inches from one of the long edges. On the same edge that you scored from, the one that's 1 3/4 inches from the score line, you're going to make tick marks on the long edge. And it looks like the score line is right in the middle of this rectangle, but it's actually closer to one long edge, and that's the edge you want to work with right now. So I'd like to use my grid paper to do this. It's quick. Come in 1/4 inch from the short side and make a tick mark, and then go to the other side, line it up, and make a tick mark on that side. Now what you're going to do is you're just going to trim that piece off, and you can do it with your paper snips. I like to use my little paper trimmer. And you're going to cut from the score line up to your tick mark. Like that. And from your score line up to your tick mark. You see I've cut off those corners, and what that's going to do is it's going to match the angle of the envelope flap. The envelope flap. The envelope flap. All right. So once that's done, I will use my template, and I'm just going to put the cropped corners at the top and line up the bottom long edges, the template and the designer series paper I just cut, and I'm going to trace the curve on my designer series paper. Just like that. And then I will cut that off also. And I just stay right inside the pencil line. We'll go back in if we need to and erase any pencil line that might be showing. Like that. And there's a little bit of pencil line. There we go. So once that's done, I can crease this, and it's going to sit in the envelope just like this, and it will be centered right in the middle between the two edges, and you see that the curve is just below the adhesive, and I still have a little bit of pencil. The smart thing to do would be to draw that curved line on the back side of the liner. So now what we do is we want to put adhesive just on the top, on the part that will go on the flap. You don't need to worry about adhering the bottom part, just the top. And I like to use Stampin' Seal. You can use liquid adhesive here, but if you're not careful, if you get a little too heavy, it will wrinkle the outside of your envelope flap, and that doesn't look as nice as having the Stampin' Seal on it. So I just take my Stampin' Seal and I run it as close, I run it as close to that curve as I can. Just kind of follow along with the curve. And then on each side. And then next to the score and fold. Bring my envelope back in. Just tuck this inside. And what you want to do, if you can keep yourself unstuck, is line up the fold in the envelope flap with the fold in your liner. Just get it right in there snug, and then just fold this over and press. And there's your liner. Pretty easy. So the thing that takes the most time probably is making your template, but once you have this template made, you can use it over and over again. You can write on here that this is for the Stampin' Up A2 size. Okay. If you have any questions, you can find me at foggybonnet.com. You can email me at foggybonnet@gmail.com. And I'll see you next time.